When I saw this 4th edition of BattleTech from 1997 on German eBay for like 15 euros, I knew I had to have it. So I decided I'd do a bit of a vintage BattleTech unboxing here. Let's have a look at the components of this old box set and talk about a little bit about how everything's changed over the years. First off, the back of the box here, the text is the same text as on the English version, so I'm not going to start to translate it. You can find it on sarna.net. I'll link it down below. What I found was a bit interesting was the price here over the barcode. That's Deutsche Mark, so German marks, 65 back then in 1997, a couple of years before euros. And I dug a little bit around, and I think this box would have been about 30 or 35 euros worth, like in today's euros. So maybe $30 or $35 if you're in the States. Now, when you open the box, of course, you're going to get the mechs and these little plastic thingies you can put these on. Funnily enough, this box is complete. The only thing that's missing are the dice. Everything else is pretty much as good as new. So, the 4th edition of BattleTech is a very interesting edition in that it reworks some stuff, and one of those things includes the mechs in the way that the plastic mechs that I covered before on my channel here, they came with the 3rd edition of BattleTech, and of course they lost the license to use those mechs because they were from anime series. So for the 4th edition they had to use totally different mechs, and these were the mechs that they landed on, and they used them for many years, and pretty much until Game of Armored Combat, I think. I'm not sure. And they also redesigned all of the mechs for the standees. I think the official artwork is the same as before, but these mechs did have a bit of a, I think a pretty cool style actually. Like they are somewhat more sleek than the original stuff. I really quite like the cicada there, and the Hunchback, of course, and Hermes too. Grasshopper is very cool, I think. I kind of wish that the new models would reflect that in some way. And the Panther is very cool as well. Maybe my favorite out of them could actually be the Spider. It's sort of superhero-like, I guess. A very, very cool style, I'd say. If you want to see better pictures of this, you can go to Sarna once again. Someone's uploaded pictures of all of these standees. So you get 4x6, so 24 mechs here, and you get another sheet that's the same mechs as well. Of course, can't play BattleTech without maps. You get 2 of the same map here, and on the other side you have a blank hex thingy. I believe it's the same map they've used for many editions, starting from the first one, but they did rework the graphics. I really do actually like the graphics on these maps. They're sort of like a hand-painted look to them. I really do dig that look. Then we have the Einführung in BattleTech booklet, which does have the Kickstart rules, which are pretty much the same as the beginner box rules in the new boxes, in the modern boxes. We're going to take a bit of a closer look at how these things differ a bit later in this video, but alongside those rules, it's also got the fluff portion here at the back of the book, got the rules there, and then you go into many pages of some lore and fluff stuff here, and also some very nice pictures of those redesigned mechs here. Then we have the rulebook proper. It's a much drier set of rules, or a much drier book. No colors, some visuals of course, but I didn't bother to read through all of this because it's pretty much the same as nowadays. There aren't very many like big changes that were made to the formula of how BattleTech works. What I do find very good is that I did look through this, I would say the new ones have been laid out a lot better, and it's all a lot more nicer to read and leaf through. So this maybe does have a bit too much text just to play a game. What I do find very interesting, however, is that the scenarios in this rulebook are actually the exact same scenarios as are found in the Game of Armored Combat box now. It's got a basic mission where you have a couple of mechs fighting. Then you got the one where one mech has to escape a map that has like 2 hex maps laid out. So lengthwise, and of course the mechs themselves are different. In the new one you got a battlemaster fighting against a couple of other mechs. This one has it's got a Jaeger mech, a Cicada, and a Commando going against a Zeus. So that's a bit of a difference to the new one, but it's actually the exact same scenario. Anyway, then you got a third one, which is more of a bigger battle here. So I found that kind of funny, actually, like how the scenarios have stayed the exact same way for years and years. I'm not sure about the other editions, but this one does have the same scenarios as the new modern boxes. This edition doesn't come with a reference sheet like a separate one, but they do have it here on a page of the rules book in very, very tiny print. Of course, can't play BattleTech without record sheets. And this is the old style of record sheet, which you might have seen in my my video on record sheets. It's got the old graphics. The Mech factory still uses these. It's of course everything is German because it's the German edition. What's interesting here is that these record sheets also include something like this, which are record sheets for the Kickstart rules, so pretty much the basic beginner rules. However, if you played the beginner rule set, you'll notice that these Kickstart rules do actually have internal armor points. You can cut these out and then cut away. You've got this bit of a shortened version of the reference sheet here on the other side of your tiny little record sheet for your mechs. It's pretty cool. And at the end here we have a sheet of stickers for the different factions, so you can put them onto these plastic bases to show which mech belongs to which faction. I'm not sure if these stickers actually work after 25 years. And of course the most important part, the product feedback card. I guess I could send this off and win something. I don't think that's gonna happen. So let's have a bit of a closer look at what I think is the most interesting component in this old edition of BattleTech. That would be the Introduction to BattleTech booklet here. So gorgeous artwork, of course, a little bit retro. I do enjoy the old artwork on these products. But what exactly is inside of this? So we have, of course, the introduction itself. We've got what do you need to get for a game, how the game works, moving and firing. And then you have a training scenario. And then you have the short history of the inner sphere and talking about the different powers in the inner sphere. You got some fluff about the battle mechs, and at the very end some stuff about the hardware, like the weapons and the stuff they use. I think it's kind of interesting that at this point this was already like the new style of doing things. Before, I'm not sure how they did before, but this was like the new direction they took with these core boxes. Of course, it's basically the same as when you buy the beginner box. You get all sorts of different leaflets. You got the quick start rules, and you've got the primer and the guide to the inner sphere. But here, all of these are put into one booklet. Now, I'm not going to read through all of these rules in German. It doesn't really matter because the rules have stayed pretty much the same. And what I think is also interesting is that the Kickstart rules here, they are pretty much the exact same as in the beginner box. These very quick rules to BattleTech on how to play the game. It leaves the same kinds of things out as the beginner box. Like, it doesn't have melee combat at all, and it doesn't have criticals. What I find interesting, however, is that in comparison to the new beginner box stuff, like here are the record sheets from the beginner box, we only see the armor diagram here, not the inner structure at all. But for this old edition, we also have the record sheets here. For the Kickstart rules, you do actually get the inner structure. What I find a good idea, like, I think the idea of playing the beginner rules in BattleTech sounds kind of boring because I like melee and I like the effects of critical hits. But if you're going to leave out critical hits, you're not going to need the inner structure either. It's just going to make your mechs like bullet sponges, essentially. So I find it a good idea that if you're going to have the beginner box rules here, just leave out the inner structure. It doesn't do anything if you don't have critical hits. So it's just going to make the game faster to play if you're first trying it out. So we got a scenario here as well. And then we got the lore portion with the history of the inner sphere. All of the different parts of it. Very text heavy here. I'm not going to bother reading all of this. I know it already. And there's some stuff about the battle mech itself. I do really appreciate the fact that they've printed out these wonderful new old designs, or old new designs of the battle mechs in bigger scale here at the end, and some fluff about them as well. I really do like these old new designs. It's kind of a shame that they didn't use these later. Some very fun, cool designs. They look kind of modern in a retro way, sort of. Very cartoony, but pretty cool, I would say. I do like these designs. Dragon, quick draw. Catapult looking very stalkery, sort of. As I said before, I really do like the grasshopper. It does look like a grasshopper here. I very much enjoyed this design. Banshee kind of looking a little bit mediocre, I would say. Maybe the worst out of these designs. As is looking like a proper soldier. So there we go. BattleTech 4th edition from 1997. What I find interesting is that lacking the miniatures, I mean, which they didn't have because I believe they simply didn't have plastic molds for the new starter mechs. I mean, the mechs weren't new, they did have miniatures, but they didn't have plastic molds for them. So they just released an edition without plastic. But without the miniatures, it feels more like a board game, which is what BattleTech is at the end of the day. And it's still sort of marketed as a board game in some capacity. I would say the miniatures are taking a bigger role now. They're very good. But some gaming stores still list BattleTech under board games, even now in 2023. Anyway, I would say that this is a pretty good package still. Even without the miniatures, you get the complete rules and a lot to play with. You get scenarios and everything. What I kind of like about this edition is that you get the beginner rules and the basic rules in the same package. Like, you can start out trying the game with the very simplified rules, and then if you like the game enough, you played enough, you can go on to the main rules. Now you have to buy 2 different boxes for it. I mean, you don't have to buy anything, but you know what I mean. I'm not sure why the old beginner rules and the new ones lack stuff like the melee. I don't think melee makes the game that much more complicated, but that's one of my favorite parts about BattleTech, so I would not leave it out. I do understand why they leave out critical hits. They do make the game a lot more complicated, but maybe the new beginner box could incorporate those things into the rule set, even if by like an addendum, like for the people who've already played all the scenarios in the book and want to try something new. Just have like an extra portion that says, hey, want to try something new? Actually, the game also has melee and stuff. I don't know. I'm no game designer. I'm no businessman, so maybe I'm talking out my ass, as is usual, of course. Anyway, that's finished the video for this time. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.